Hello everybody out there in YouTube land, Mark with NCKFA. I'm going to try to make this a quick tip. Might run a little longer than the 2-minute mark, so bear with me. I think it'll be worth it for you. It's getting to be still winter, but it's warmer days. The crappie bite's going to start soon. And I have never been a good crappie fisherman until I took, and I'm giving him full credit for this, Nathan Wild's crappie seminar. And I learned a lot. I'm going to give you one of the, in my opinion, the best tips that he ever gave me. He's going to be doing some more seminars, and I'll update you. But this, to me, was just amazing. So, give you a quick tip. It might go a little long. Anyway, this is a traditional bobber. We all grew up, probably as kids, with our grandparents or our parents fishing, watching this bobber. I love to bobber fish, whether it's for panfish or king mackerel, black tip shark. I just like to watch it go around and dunk under. It just reminds me of my childhood. This works great in certain situations. However, as with everything else, we get smarter and we do different things. So let me show you what Nathan taught me. This is my little crappie rod. This is called a slip float. And I'm going to give you a quick, as quick as I can, slip float tip. All right, there are many different stoppers to stop your slip float from moving up and down the line. The way the slip float works is, the line passes through the slip float. It can move up and down the line from any depth from a foot to 50 feet. Depends on where you put the stopper. You may or may not be able to see it. I have a little stopper here. This one's made out of rubber. I prefer the rubber ones because they hold fast and they easily pass through the guides when you reel it in, which will be important, and I'll show you that in a minute. They make some that are made out of string. They, in my opinion, don't work as well as the rubber ones because sometimes that string gets caught up in your guide. If it gets wet, it slips. These rubber bumpers stop. I get these. I buy them in bulk from Cabela's or Bass Pro Shops. They're just rubber bobber stoppers. And again, maybe I'll try to do a link to that, but you can find them. Just the rubber bobber stoppers. Then you put on a bead or two, depending on what you like to do. And the bead has a hole in it, and that bead runs to where the stopper is, stops, then your slip float stops and hits the bead. And you can adjust it very quickly. Like this is probably 3 feet. I pull on my rubber bead, and it goes down to a foot. But if I take off line, and I know how long the rod is, so if I bring that rubber bumper to where the reel is, that's 4 feet. I do that twice, that's 8 feet. So the point of this all is, when spring comes and I'm crappie fishing, if I'm fishing under docks, let's say it's 4 or 5 feet, and I want to get that line, that lure under the dock. Well, what I can do with this bobber stopper is, I can hold my rod like this, let go, shoot it under the dock. But here's the beauty. When it hits, my lure, represented by this jig, goes down, the bobber slides up and stops. So it suspends that lure. And in March, we normally have wind, so it's that little constant bobbing of the bobber that adds action to the lure. And all I'm doing is sitting on the other side of the dock in my kayak, watching that little bobber barely jig, and those crappie crush it. The other beauty of the bobber stopper, it keeps it in the strike zone longer. And it'll float the entire underneath the dock. You can set it up with the wind, depending on which way the wind's blowing, to float under the whole dock and just catch a ton of crappie. The other thing that's nice about it is if you're someone that fishes structure, Christmas trees, or the new artificial reef type trees that are down there now, if you're looking on your depth finder and you see I'm in 20 feet of water, the top of those trees, the tree on the bottom or whatever, goes up to 6 feet, so 20 from 6, I need to be down 14 feet. Well, if you don't have this bobber stopper, if you're just dropping a jig down, you're kind of really guessing. All right, am I down there? You lose a lot of jigs, you get hung up a lot. With the bobber stopper, I can strip off, I can add the line below the bobber stopper to 12 feet, almost exactly. That way, when I drop it over the side of the kayak or cast it out, the bobber, I'll move it up so you can see, this hits the water, bam, my weight slides down, my lure slides down, it stops at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 feet. So I know if my bobber is vertical, my lure is right on the top of those trees, which also makes for effective trolling. You can stick rods out, they call it spider rigging. You can use your bobbers, because in a kayak it's always hard to know how much line do I have out, what's the angle of my lure, and how high off the bottom is that lure in reality. But if you have a float with a bobber stopper and you set it at 12 feet and you're moving just slowly enough that keeps your bobber, not your bottom, your bobber vertical, I'm trying to be quick, your bobber vertical, then you know your lure is vertical in the water column and it's whatever depth you set it to. So, again, there's your quick tip. Think about using your bobber stopper and your slip float. You will catch a ton more fish with it because, again, you're able to control the depth every time. Whew. Could have just said that to start it with.